Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
A new beginning, another opportunity to make a statement. Lionheart celebrates its roots with the car that started it all. 18 races to determine who is the best in the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-per-hour Indy cars inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one Lionheart Speedway Series champion whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. The Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing starts now.
Just a week ago, Matt Taylor showcased his ability to not only slice and dice his way through dirty air, but find his way to victory lane in dominating fashion in Kentucky. This week, the top drivers of the Lionheart Speedway Series are up to another challenge. It's time for short track action. This is the Gomez Sim Industries Gateway 200 from the virtual Worldwide Technology Raceway on iRacing. Hello everyone and welcome to Race 7 of Season 2 for the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing, live on RaceSpot TV and ESTV. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, the makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloudline of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside me tonight is Andrew Kinsella with our producer, Tyler Maxson. You can follow along with live time and scoring thanks to our partners at ATBO to follow along with your favorite teams and drivers in the virtual world of motorsport. Let's dive straight into our Graphics Esports Countdown to Green as we get ready to go racing tonight. Just in the shadows of the Gateway Arch, Madison, Illinois, the spotlight is on tonight, Andrew, with plenty of drivers looking to bounce back from a pretty crazy run at Kentucky.
A completely different challenge for these drivers here today, Justin. We go from the high banks and the wide open spaces of the Kentucky Motor Speedway to the tight confines of the Worldwide Technology Raceway, otherwise known as Gateway International. And what a change this 1 week will make for some of these drivers. And it's just what the doctor ordered, because as you mentioned, there were a number of drivers who had more bad luck befall them. So maybe a change in the style of racing is just what they need to reset their season and get things going again.
Let's take a look at the schedule presented by Next Level Racing. As mentioned, we're at Gateway tonight, and this is in a big-time stretch for competitors leading up to the second Triple Crown of the season. Michigan and Nashville on the docket afterwards, but keep in mind, this is essentially, if you look at how things are broken down, the first short track package track essentially in the calendar for Speedway.
Yeah, of course, we did have Milwaukee as well in round 3, but
yes.
This is a little bit of a different animal compared to Milwaukee. You do have the very tight corners in the 1 and 2, but then 3 and 4 wide open, and it allows you to get all types of runs down that front straightaway. So we should see a lot of passing here today. Be very interesting to see the strategy, especially the fuel strategy. But as you mentioned, this schedule, we've got some crunch time coming up here, coming into that second Triple Crown. Michigan, the high banks, always a thrilling race. And then we go to a new race for the Lionheart Speedway Series in Nashville Super Speedway. And that's going to be very interesting to see how these drivers handle that before that big Triple Crown race at Indianapolis in July.
First half of the season getting itself in full swing and then some towards that midway portion of the campaign. Take a look at the driver standings presented by Graphics Esports. Matt Wagner enters tonight with a points lead over Joe Branch, Trevor Malone, Matt Taylor, Craig Forsyth at the top 5. Separation amongst the top 2, 13 points currently entering this evening. And plenty of ferocious comebacks still in the standings. Wood is now in the top 6 with a chance to leap up to 5th with a good run tonight.
Absolutely. These standings are incredibly tight here, Justin. You mentioned that top 3, but even the top 4, Matt Taylor, really, really close. But the back half of the top 10, also very close. There's going to be a lot of jockeying for position here tonight. It's going to be very important for these drivers to get a clean race. But I'm also looking outside of this graphic as well. There are a number of drivers who have not been having the best of luck so far. You look at the likes of Tony Schowen, Jacob Oster, even Dakota DeMade and Luis Gonzalez Nunez, some drivers that are knocking on the door of great results, but just haven't put it all together. This could be the night that they do it and really get back into this top 10 scenario.
Plenty of expectations for some of the competitors that they still have some time to try and live up to. Let's take a look at the team standings presented by HyperX. Powerslide Motorsports, they have had a tough battle this campaign. Team Race for Sunset has leapfrogged their way up to second in the standings. Dark Horse Racing has slipped back to third. Then Synergy Motorsports Black and Synergy Motorsports top 5 in the standings. Still the major talking point, factory backed all the way back in 8th. But Powerslide is still feeling the pressure from Race First after the performances at Kentucky.
Yeah, we haven't really seen a team that has been able to separate themselves from the pack so far, Justin. We have Powerslide, obviously, with Joe Branch with the consistent results, but you look at 4D Sim Racing down in 6th place, but they've had some really good results on the back of Craig Forsyth. They're a team that I'm looking at that could be able to break through here. Synergy Motorsports is another team that has traditionally done okay, but they're really looking up this year with some of their drivers in that top, the back half of that top 10 with Andrew Wood, Ron Hacker, Mike Rigney. There are some very intriguing names, and as I said, no one has separated themselves from the pack in this team standing. There's still everything to play for.
That can even be said when regards to the rookie standings presented by Butt Kicker, because while Wood's continuing his charge up with his experience on the platform in general, Samuel Ryman, we talked about his ability to be in the top 10 late and finish there. He had one of his more rougher runs, so to speak, at the very end at Kentucky. He's currently still in the hunt, though, for the rookie standings. Shane Coogan is amongst those charging up along with Dakota DeMade from just outside the top 10.
I think what we're seeing here, Justin, is that this is truly a rookie class, and there have been a lot of rookie mistakes throughout that top 10. Of course, there was that big mistake from Andrew Wood that cost him several championship points at Texas. But you look at Gavin Sanders, he had that late race incident at Kentucky. Jacob Oster has been involved in a number of incidents. There's a number of drivers here who have shown a lot of speed, but they haven't really been able to put together that consistent form of results, and that's sort of typical of a rookie class, which we didn't really see last year, but this year much more that typical rookie mistakes, and it'll be interesting to see which one of these rookies will be able to sort those mistakes out the fastest here.
Last time these drivers hit the racetrack at Kentucky in particular, Wood was the highest of the rookie drivers. Let's take a look at the series details presented by GSI, where Season 2 continues to rumble forward. Lexus Newsom, of course, the defending series champion, showing good strides in the IndyCar division this campaign. But these competitors in these custom-fixed setups, they have a lot of work ahead of them for tonight. Talk us through what we should be expecting for the Dallara DW12 setup you built for this evening.
Yeah, so as we mentioned a little bit off the top, it's definitely the type of course where you need it to be working on both ends of the track, and the cars do work fairly well at both ends, but it's all going to be down to the drivers here. This is very much a driver's track, particularly in turns 1 and 2, and these drivers are going to have to focus on figuring out a way to get a good exit off of turn 2, because from turn 2 all the way down, back, all the way around and across the start finish line, you're able to get a tremendous run. These cars do have that big rear wing on that the DW12 used to have on the short tracks, and it allows them to produce a lot of downforce. You're flat through 3 and 4, and you have to try and find a way to get the run on the car in front of you and close that move before you get into turns 1 and 2 again.
And you see with the event details presented by Moza Racing in particular, with the 5th trip to the Shadow of the Gateway Arch for the DW12 chassis in the series and its history, the winner has always come from inside the top 10. Qualifying also going to be very prevalent and pivotal if you want to contend here tonight. You mentioned those passes. 15 is the benchmark, all the way back from Season 2 in LIS history. Last year, it was Robert Malechka who took the checker flag here at Worldwide Technology Raceway in this series. Plenty to discuss as these drivers finish up their warm-ups to be able to get themselves ready for qualifying. Luis Gonzalez Nunez quickest in the session, but just barely 5/1,000 of a second behind him from his 25.382. Tony Schowen, Mike Rigney, Matt Taylor, and Gabe Wood, the top 5 in practice. Majority of the pack running on average in the 25 4s to 5s. That speed expected to be quick, but keep in mind, different cue set to compare to the race. Lots can happen in qualifying, as we've seen this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Justin, qualifying is going to be very, very important for these drivers. It does take, while it is possible to pass, it is still a short track in an IndyCar, and it does take a lot of bravery to make those passes happen. And more importantly, at a track like this where the laps go by so quickly, it takes a lot of time to work your way through the field. So it is a tremendous benefit to be able to start this race in that top 10, top 15 position.
4 drivers have EOL penalties for tonight's action. Brian Beard, also throw into the mix Michael Goodman, Ron Hacker, Hugo Gallus for incidents throughout the last round or so for them. So those competitors start towards the back. The roughest of the marks for Goodman, who was a contender for the victory at Kentucky at one point after the pole time was set by him. Drivers are underway to see who can set the pole time this time out, though. Here at Gateway, amongst those on track, Matt Taylor, Samuel Ryman, Ryan King, Gabe Wood, all on circuit so far.
Yeah, here we see Matt Taylor warming up the tires and warming up for his run, and it's very, very important here to keep up your momentum on this first lap. It's very tight to say whether the first lap or the second lap is going to be better, but it all comes down to this corner right here, and you see Matt Taylor, he's going to sort of take the outside line here on this warm-up lap, so he really is treating lap 1 of his run as more of a warm-up lap. And I think you'll see him go faster on lap 2, but you can see just how important the momentum is, how important it is for him to stay nice and high. And now he comes to the lap that really counts here. This is going to be where the money is made, and he's going to try and get down as far as he can into the corner here, and he's going to get as close as he can, keeping a nice line through there. You saw just a little breath of the throttle. He didn't get fully on the brakes, but he did have to lift through turns 1 and 2. But here you have to get right tight to that line, and you have to be so careful not to hit that curbing there, because it will throw the car off. But Matt Taylor does a great job keeping it nice and close. 25.344. That is an incredibly quick time there, Justin.
That puts him at the top of the board for the time being by a good 1/10 of a second. Plenty of others still zipping around the racetrack, including Shawan, Coogan, Jenkins, with Joe Branch. Brigney is also amongst those zipping around the circuit. Here's a look at Big Joe Hasser trying to zip his way around the track as well. And the major thing for some of these competitors too, very cool track conditions for them to race on tonight. The track temperature, it's continuing to decline in fact through qualifying. Plenty of grip with a 75 degrees track temperature today. Big Joe Hasser gets up to third with that grip.
Yeah, and that track temperature will be important as the night goes on. We do expect it to keep falling just a little bit more and a little bit more as this night wears on here, as we transition out of the late afternoon and into the evening. But it is very important. These cars are on the older tire model, and they're very temperature sensitive in terms of tires. So the more that goes down, as you mentioned, the more grip they get, and the more fun that these drivers will have out there, because they'll just be able to follow that much closer throughout the course of this race, and really be able to execute passes just that little bit easier.
Taylor still at the top of the board, showing up to second. Gabe Wood, with one of his best qualifying runs of the season, still inside the top 3. That's still with drivers like Andrew Wood yet to put up a time. Jenkins also looking to bump up a little bit, possibly. Curly 9th after lap 1. Lap 2 was slower. 25.5 for Paul Jenkins.
Yeah, and that's the danger of committing too hard on lap 1, Justin, is if you go a little bit too hard, then your tires just give up on lap 2, and you don't set yourself up for the optimal line through turns 1 and 2. And this really is where we're riding on board with Craig Forsyth here. Turns 1 and 2 is really where a lap is made or broken, because it's not just hundredths of a second, but tenths of a second you can gain, just because you do have to time getting out of the throttle just perfectly in order to execute turns 1 and 2 on the limit.
Taker with Forsyth, a good choice of that limit to 25.448. That puts him among the top drivers inside the top 10, with that time around getting him to third. Here's a driver I think we need to keep an eye on tonight. Some good momentum being built up. Luis Gonzalez Nunez as of late. 24th after the first time around. Qualifying's been an up and down adventure for the 14. This time he goes up to 5th.
Yeah, nice qualifying effort there from Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Joe Branch, meanwhile, put it P3 there. That's probably the highest that we've seen Branch start in any of these races, Justin. Normally, he's one of those drivers who you just sort of expect to slowly work through the field. Not today. He's going for broke here at Gateway.
And with that, the drivers have wrapped up their qualifying session. Overall, 25 drivers setting times, 33 drivers on the entry list, 32 currently in the garage area here at Gateway to get themselves racing for 160 laps. It's time to get ready for the starting grid. Cars making their way to the starting grid for the Gomez Sim Industries Gateway 200, where it was a very tightly contested qualifying session in the 25.3s for Matt Taylor to get himself to the top of the board for tonight's action. As the competitors sort themselves out towards the starting grid, Tony Shawan was amongst the top 2. In second, Joe Branch, Craig Forsyth round out the top 4. Your starting grid presented by Butt Kicker. Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Gabriel Wood round out the top 6 tonight, with Big Joe Hasser in the 7th spot just outside that top 6 grouping. Behind them will be also Andrew Wood with Samuel Ryman, AJ Musselman in the top 10, Trevor Malone, Jeff Sheehan, your top 12. Mike Rigney starts 13th with Matt Wagner, one of his lower down qualifying runs of the season, in 14th. George Anzondo back in the field in 15th. Shane Coogan building up some momentum as of late in 16th, while Jenkins and Oster are in the top 18. 19th spot tonight goes the way of Dakota DeMade, with Dane Mull in the 20th position. Christian Jasper 21st with Isaiah Dupree 22nd. Brendan Carter and Ryan King amongst the final qualifiers. One other driver set a time in the session, Jim Herrick. Of note, James Watson, the car currently listed 26, yet to join in the paddock. Gavin Sanders, Ron Hacker, Michael Goodman, Brian Beard, amongst those who are either in EOL territory or did not set a time outright. The rest of the drivers in the grid include Matthew Short, Chris Fowler, Gary Gonso, who will finish up the 33 entrants here at Gateway. As the drivers get themselves to the starting grid, let's take a look at your featured onboards tonight. First, with the Extreme Scoring onboard, it's Gavin Sanders. Your complete league management software. Visit extremescoring.info. George Anzaldo tonight drives along with the Next Level Racing on board. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. AJ Musselman has the Gomez Sim Industries on board. Makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Visit gomezsimindustries.com. And the HyperX on board goes to the driver inside row 2, Joe Branch. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers and HyperX is always ready to game. That's a look at your featured onboard cameras for tonight's action from Gateway. Your quick final thoughts and keys to victory, Andrew, before we get revving to the green.
It all comes down to one word, Justin, and that's balance. It's balancing aggression versus patience. It's balancing fuel economy versus speed, and it's balancing that car in the aero push, especially through turns 1 and 2. That turn 2 wall can come up so quickly, and it'll catch out drivers here tonight. Hopefully, you can find the right balance and get yourself to the finish line intact.
Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the Gomez Sim Industries Gateway 200. We're underway from Worldwide Technology Raceway. A clean launch from Matt Taylor, off and away to lead the race by a few straightaways. As things settle up for second, not so much for about fifth on back. Nunez battling it out with Wood. Nunez holds on to the spot.
Yeah, Tony Schowen didn't get a very good start there, and it's allowed Matt Taylor to really stretch this out. He's almost a second out on Joe Branch in second place now, but all the action here is back in the pack. They're going 2 by 2 here as they try to sort out who's going to be aggressive and who's going to be a little bit more conservative on this start. But Trevor Malone looks like he's one of the drivers who really wants to get back through this field as quickly as he can. He's making some big moves out there.
A lot of big and aggressive moves, in fact, in some of these cases, as you take a look at AJ Musselman battling for the 10th position. Samuel Ryman already dropping back 2 spots off the launch. Has a perfect view of some of the side-by-side in and around him. This is the battle going on for about 13th position. Zoldo in the picture, and Zoldo just avoids the slide-up.
And that's Matt Wagner right there, and what you saw there from the checkup from Wagner is he just lost about 3 positions just because he had to check up the momentum that badly. But we're also seeing some battling up a little bit further up front here. Here's Luis Gonzalez Nunez making a move on Gabe Wood, with Andrew Wood right behind the two of them, surveying the scene here. But look at how close they get to the exit of the turn 2 wall there. That's going to be something to watch out for all day, Justin. If you misjudge turn 2, it's very, very easy to get into that wall, and we've seen it a number of times in practice already.
Plenty of drivers getting tied out of that turn 2 exit in particular, yes. And remember, in the past, that has been a major trend in all competition levels for Lionheart action. There's also the chance you get too loose and loop it around to the grass as well and hit the inside wall instead. Meanwhile, Gabe Wood, he's under attack from Andrew Wood. It's the battle of the Woods. Wood trying to hold on to the outside. Gabe in particular, as the Wood logoed machine of Andrew Wood can't get the run.
And of course, Andrew Wood is in the wood-colored car. That's how you can tell them apart there. But yeah, we're starting to see it stringing out just a little bit, but there are still battles going on back further in the pack as well. But it does look like some of these drivers, they're starting to just settle down just a little bit, just knowing that there is still a long way to go. We're only 7 laps in.
Oh no! One car hard into the wall. It's Jim Herrick. A couple others slid up with them. Caution flag is out for the first time. The trouble started right up the road from him, with Gavin Sanders getting some help from Creighton Carter right into the path of Herrick, and Sanders went for a spin to bring out the yellow. Significant chassis damage to the 10 car.
I will take full responsibility for that commentator's curse there, because just as I was saying that they were starting to settle down, we get a caution. And as you say, it was Gavin Sanders there getting a little bit of help from Creighton Carter. But so we went 8 laps there, Justin, and I don't think we're going to see anybody taking advantage of the pits here. But here we have the replay. And as you mentioned, yeah, Sanders... I think it was just a little bit of a miscommunication. Sanders expected Creighton to go more for the inside of the corner there, and Creighton was expecting Sanders to stay higher, and they just came together, and Sanders definitely got the worst end of that deal. And that's the unfortunate result, Justin, of having to be with that EOL penalty at the back of the field. He was just in a position that he was trying to do too much too early, I think.
So with this caution flag, Carter, DeMade, Jasper, Hacker, Goodman, Beard all elect to come in. Of note, Gary Gonzo did miss the start. However, he has just sprinted into the garage area and may be able to get the 2 car out with minimal lap lossage. Albeit it'll still be at least 9 laps down for him, but still a chance to keep on going with Gavin Sanders, the first DNF of the night with that incident. Let's talk about the strategy, though, because we were discussing before tonight's race the potential of the fuel saving being so critical. The windows were projected to be up to 39 laps full out. How would you play this race tonight? And what, for some, depending on how they play this race, could be as much as 4 stops, if not 3.
Yeah, so it should be, if it was green all the way, you should be able to easily extend it to that 40-lap window to do the 3-stop race. That being said, with this early caution here, that's going to make it a little bit easier to make these first few windows, but the more that you save, and it's very easy to save here at Gateway because you can essentially coast from just past the start-finish line almost all the way into turn 1 and save a whole lot of fuel without losing very much time. That allows you to open up the strategy a lot more, and I would say you can save between 5 and 7 laps here if you're really, really good with that right foot there. So it's definitely the case where if you save more at the beginning of a run, by the end of the race, that will pay off in spades because you'll be able to have the lighter fuel loads, the fresher tires, and that's when the track is also the coolest. It's when you're most likely to be able to make moves. So having that advantage there will be a very big factor, I think, in this race as it wears on.
Here's an interesting call, though. Samuel Ryman was in the middle of the pack around 11th at the time of the caution flag. Ryman elected to top off during the second time around the track. Ryman has sacrificed the track position to join the top off party, 21st on back. Ryman with the choice is in 25th for this restart. iRacing pace car off, 150 laps to go. Taylor up and away as we're back to racing. And already things getting a bit spread out at the head of the field. Joe Branch with a better launch this time, however, looking to keep the draft of Taylor.
Just a little bit farther back, though, Andrew Wood made a big lunge on Joe Hassert, and that's cost him a couple of positions here. He was passed by Hassert, but he's also under attack now from Trevor Malone as well. This is where all the action is in the back half of the top 10. Wood, Malone, Musselman is also looking to get up here. So, and Zaldo as well, looking very racy on that inside line. He made that inside line work really well there, Justin, but he just can't keep that momentum up on the exit of turn 2.
Bit of a check-up with Mike Rigney taking a bit of a poke to the outside. Toto again stays low. Can he find a way around Musselman? No. AJ Musselman muscles his way around the outside to keep it side by side. Still hard, aggressive battling for the top 10 spot as Enzotto clears him this time through 1 and 2.
And there's the slide job where once you get that move made, you really have to get up the track and block off that momentum, or else you find yourself under attack. And look at Mike Rigney sling it down the inside there. That was really dicey stuff there from Rigney, and he's going to get checked up, and now they might just go 3 wide down the front stretch.
That's the second 3 wide move Jenkins has tried this race. And again, Jenkins elects to back it off. Here's a look from the GSI on board from AJ Musselman. Everybody looking to find a way around. Rigney still trying to crack that puzzle. But now Jacob Oster looking to find his way around his teammate.
And Jacob Oster's really been on the move here, Justin. He started out in 18th position, now knocking on the door of the top 10. He's up to 11th position. Rigney looking to take advantage as well now. So you can see that there's a lot of chess being played here amongst the back half of this top 10, this top 15 area. And they're really having to try and find a way to get track position where they can, and it's all about being able to keep up your momentum and not having your run spoiled with any of the moves you're making, because it's so easy to lose 2 or 3 positions rather than gain the one that you're trying to get.
And the critical thing too is the more you fight, the more time you risk losing. To the outside goes Matt Wagner to make the move, near contact behind the wall for Dean Mull as well. But here's the thing, 6th on back, they've already lost a second and a half plus to the race leaders. The top 5 have checked out, with Big Joe Hassert leading the pack. These drivers still keeping in that draft though, because there is a tiny bit of shuffling here and there for that 6th spot.
Yeah, Wood and Hassert have been trading barbs a little bit, but certainly the most thrilling action right now is right where we've been watching in this top 11, top 12 area. Matt Wagner, of course, he started back in 13th. He really hasn't made much progress through the field, which has been really surprising for me, Justin, because we've seen him move through the field on a number of occasions, but it just doesn't seem like he quite has the rhythm figured out around Gateway so far tonight.
Well, Jenkins, meanwhile, we've seen him trying to be very aggressive off some of these restarts. Jenkins already back to nearly where he started, 16th position. He's also right now a little bit in front of Shane Coogan, who's trying to get a little bit of battling done, although Jeff Chion wants to get a little bit of passing done for 19th.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in front of these drivers as well, the big mover on the day so far, Chris Fowler, from 31st all the way up to 16th position. So there's definitely possible to make some of these moves happen, but it's definitely, I think as the tires are starting to go off here, it's definitely getting harder and harder, and you're seeing more mistakes being made and then opportunism based on the mistakes rather than the passes happening sort of more organically.
Worth noting, you see on the pylon a bit of squabbling between Wood, Hassert, and Wood still. See in particular the slingshot effects being taken and some of the passes. Some of these drivers trying to sort themselves out to figure out if they can find a way to close up. And Zaldo amongst this, he still wants to make some more moves, that time 9th around Trevor Malone.
Yeah, and it does look like here, Justin, there is a little bit of traffic going on as well. Oh,
that's Jim Herrick. Perfect timing to mention that they're reaching traffic earlier than expected. Not in the way they were expecting there, as Big Joe Hassert loses the spot to Wood from that.
Yeah, so that traffic really tripped these guys up, and now they're a good 2 seconds back of Luis Gonzalez Nunez in 5th here, but what they've really got to do, I think, is start to have a little bit of co-opetition here, and just Hassert and Anzaldo need to cooperate with Andrew Wood. The problem with that is I know both Wood and Hassert really enjoy being the first car in a pack, so I doubt that there's going to be too much cooperation, but it does look like for now at least Andrew Wood has solidified himself into that 6th position.
Of note, Gary Godso's pulled into the pit lane as he has already passed Sanders on track. Jim Herrick has pulled in with damage, it appears, from that recent contact. Wood currently 3 seconds back of the race leader. Speaking of those leaders, keep in mind the pace average right now by them, the 25.7 bracket for them. This second pack running, some of them are in the 25.6s, some of them is running as low as 26-second flat times with some of the shuffling in the line.
Yeah, and
a bit of a squeeze just up that road. You've seen just at the split second, Oster nearly squeezed the wall. Now another gets spun around into the wall. Cars flipping around. Hacker and Carter collide for the caution.
Yeah, Creighton Carter involved in the second incident of the day for the 71 car, and unfortunately it looked like the victim there was Ron Hacker, and it does look like there's substantial damage to both cars here, Justin.
Aero wash at this track is pretty significant in turn 2. Jeff Sion might be the perfect example of that, because that's where I think that checkup Andrew came in and that might have been the spark plug for the rest of the trouble we just seen.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that there's a big checkup. That 18 car checks up. Creighton does nothing wrong. He gets out of it. I'm not sure who it was that originally hit him, but then Hacker nowhere to go there. So just an unfortunate incident. I think it might have been Shane Coogan that got into the back of the 71 car there.
Ron Hacker getting absolutely demolished from that as well, but the pit window is open as a result of the caution. That being on lap 25 right here. We'll see if anyone from the top-off party elects to come on in this time. Christian Jasper elects not to pit this time. Dakota DeMade, King, Goodman also staying out. Everybody else staying out this time, or coming in, should say, this time into the boxes.
Yeah, and if you stayed out the last time, you pretty much had to come down this time. The tires are going off, and you're more than halfway through the fuel run, so you needed to come down here. But I like the play from some of these drivers who did stay out. I think it's going to be really important for them to maintain that track position that they got, particularly if you're, say, Michael Goodman, who had that end-of-line penalty. Suddenly you'll find yourself very close to the sharp end of this field, and you've got a completely different complexion on this race.
I think you get some confirmation there, too, from the longer pit stop scene. Wing change for Coogan that takes a 13.9 second stop. Jeff Gion changing some parts as well in the rear wing for 24 seconds. Everyone else a standard 8 to 9 second pit stop, with Carter and Hacker significant damage for the incident. Getting to talking about Goodman real quickly as well, though, was able to catch up with him after another league race where he's running the super late models, and I asked him about him taking things running. You also have drivers like Ryan King having to dart their way by going running on by and just avoiding.
Yeah, and there's nothing scarier than seeing that smoke and then suddenly a car appears in front of you. It puts your heart in your mouth, and I know that would have been a Code Brown moment there for Ryan King.
He's now third in line, by the way, right in front of Goodman, who was talking about where he felt confident on his speed. It's just been about the execution in that pit lane and the timing of his stops that's really hurt the 99 in his opinion.
Yeah, and we have definitely seen that Goodman has been very fast at a number of different tracks. Of course, he's qualified so well this year. He's been rarely outside of the top 5 in qualifying. Of course, he had his EOL here today, so that's why he started so far back here today. But yeah, it's just one of those things where Goodman, he just hasn't put it all together in a race, but he's definitely the type of driver who can easily do that and easily be one of the drivers who can take a win on any given oval and any given day.
Gary Gonzo now officially out of the race once more. He's sprinted back into the garage area. So now we're down to 28 cars running on circuit. Jim Herrick, the only one running laps down at the moment. Everyone else with mandatory damage repairs on the circuit or officially done for the night. Christian Jasper looking to try and lead the field next time around to the green flag, and would be one of the first times, if not the first time, Jasper has had this opportunity this season. He's led a grand total of 16 laps on the season. 2 times he's led 4. He led 8 at Homestead. His best finish, 20th position to start the year. It's not been pretty for Jasper.
No, but that is almost to be expected with a rookie in the Lionheart series. Is you really do have to spend some time getting your feet under you and really understanding the level of competition here, because it's so strong in the Lionheart series. It's so difficult to find your way into that top 5, top 10 conversation race after race, as we've seen the likes of Matt Wagner and Matt Taylor do so often. So it's definitely good to see Jasper at the front of this field, and let's see what he can do with this restart here.
Jasper DeMade, King, Goodman, Taylor, Branch, your top 6. Shawan, Forsyth, Nunez, Hasser, the top 10. Keep in mind the biggest mover of the race so far, who has not stayed out this caution. Chris Fowler, 13 spots gained. Most spots lost. Samuel Ryman, minus 16. Green flag up on the stand, back underway. Jasper with a great launch over Dakota DeMade, who tries to dart around first. Taylor losing ground to those drivers who were on that stale strategy. Branch looks to take advantage to the inside.
That was a brave move from Branch, and unfortunately he's just run out of momentum there, and he's going to have to get things gathered up if he doesn't want his teammate all over the back of him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see just what type of run Matt Taylor, Joe Branch, and Tony Shallen will be able to get here on those leading four, because the tire advantage should be fairly significant, but you can already see Matt Taylor defending to the bottom. This might not be the best move if Joe Branch can keep the momentum on the outside here.
Taylor washes up, he hit the curbing. Taylor loses ground. Joe Branch up to 5th position. Taylor losing ground as a result of that mistake behind him. More shuffling as Rigney and company trying to get themselves sorted.
Yeah, 3 wide for a minute there with Rigney and Wood, and I think that was Fowler as well. But the action right now is focused on the leading 3 of this main strategy, we'll call it, with the leading 4 in the race being on the alternate. Joe Branch, this is very big for him. He hasn't necessarily been a driver that we've seen lead a majority of the races, but when you see him make the moves that he's made so far tonight, you can definitely tell that he's feeling it, and that could spell disaster for some of his competitors.
And that's the intriguing thing when it comes to Taylor. Keep in mind his track record. He's usually found a way to make passes others haven't been able to with the short track package when it comes to this car. Right now, starting to struggle with the dirty air, it seems. Taylor trying to go for the send just up the road for the shuffling with Shallen and Forsyth. That has settled in. Taylor on the bottom coming out of turn 4. Up in front of them, Kanan DeMaine making swaps too.
Yeah, there's a lot of action throughout this field, and Craig Forsyth is another one on the move. He made the move around Tony Shallen there, and of course he was on vacation last week at Kentucky, so I think Forsyth is looking to make up for some lost time and lost ground in the championship here. Of course, it will wash out with the drop week, but he is definitely looking up to make up for lost time, and he is, of course, a 2-time winner already this season as he gets very close to the back of Matt Taylor there.
He hit Matt Taylor, in fact. That has caused wing damage for Craig Forsyth. Trouble for the 72 from the contact. Let's see if Forsyth can hold on here.
Yeah, and we'll have to see whether the iRacing gods have that magical repair or whether it is true damage here. But for now, it looks like Craig Forsyth is able to keep up, so that's a positive sign for him. But if there is damage, that as the run goes on and the front tires go off on this set, it's going to be increasingly difficult for Forsyth to keep that car under him and keep up the pace that he needs here.
Meanwhile, Joe Branch and Matt Taylor continue to swap around at the head of this grouping. They are almost breaking away and then some from Wood and company again. Here's the HyperX on board from Branch. Branch elect to use the lower line, too low as he hits the curbing. Forsyth, even with the wing damage, looking to make a pass.
Yeah, it's really close stuff here. Forsyth's got the position coming into turns 3 and 4, and it's really easy to try and make that move, but then you see exactly what happens there is Forsyth just isn't able to keep up that momentum on the inside there. Meanwhile, Luis Gonzalez Nunez also looking to the inside of Tony Shallen there, so we've got some battles here in this top 5.
Bit of a bobble for Shallen coming out of the corner as well. You see behind them Wood losing lots of ground. Nunez, he's continued to indicate he wants to go in the Sim Race 24/7 car. Down to the bottom with a good run coming off of 4, but the draft in the favor of Shallen still.
And just a little bit further back, we had a little bit of contact there, not only with George Anzaldo and Gabe Wood, but also George Anzaldo and Chris Fowler. So there's some really tight action here back in the field, and these guys are not giving each other very much space here, Justin.
Now we'll remember, amongst those who started towards the back of the pack tonight, already up 16 positions. Looking to find a way around Gabe Wood. Picks up the draft, now goes for the send. Wood gives it to him. Wood all the way up to the outside wall, loses 2 or 3 spots.
Yeah, that was a nice opportunistic move there from George Anzaldo. I think Gabe Wood, he just got in a little too deep there, didn't realize quite how little grip he would have, and it didn't help that Matt Wagner took that high line and took away some of the arrow from him. But now you're seeing Dakota DeMade a pass for the lead here. So Christian Jasper back to P2, but some of these fresher tires from Matt Taylor, he's made it all the way back up to the back of Michael Goodman here, and I think this is where you're going to start to see that tire advantage really start to come into play here.
Lap traffic moves its way to the pit lane this time around. Aggression levels picking on up with Joe Branch and Matt Taylor again side by side. Of note, Joe Hassert, technical issues out of the race in the 11 car. That brings us to 27 cars running. Taylor gets clear nearly to the outside wall. Caution flag is up in turns 1 and 2. AJ Musselman slow. And we're under yellow again.
Yeah, that was a big impact there for AJ Musselman. And it's sort of that same thing that we saw from the last caution. There was a little bit of air there, and it looks like Brian Beard, I think, also got collected in that, unfortunately. Nowhere for Brian Beard to go there. But yeah, it was one of those scenarios where I just think that it's been developing for a few laps in a number of different areas where these drivers aren't giving each other very much space here. But Justin, we are definitely in the fuel window here as we ride on board with Brian Beard. You can see the contact happens a little bit farther up. He guesses wrong, goes high, and once you're there, you just can't change direction that quickly in the middle of a corner. And unfortunately, day done for Brian Beard.
Several drivers collected, including Beard, Musselman, and now Hassard in the same sequence lap prior, out with technical problems. But as you mentioned, majority of those who elected to stay out the last caution, in fact, all of them coming in. Not everybody who hit that previous caution, though, staying out either. Branch, Shawan, Andrew Wood, Jacob Oster, several others elect to come in. Amongst those staying out this time, Taylor, Forsyth, Nunez, Fowler, Anzaldo, Rigney, Mole, and Jenkins. Race off the pit lane, King side by side with Jasper.
And I really think this is a mistake for all the drivers who stayed out. We are 43 laps into this race, and we mentioned that flat out you can go 39 laps on a tank of fuel. That is exactly 2 more pit stops here. So I really do think that everyone who stayed out here is making a big mistake strategy-wise, because they're going to have to pit at least 3 more times here, whereas everyone else who just pitted here have now cut out a stop.
That's the critical thing. There seems to be that thought process coming in, Andrew, where some drivers may be banking on the caution popping up in 20 laps. But here's the tough part of all that. You can't necessarily strategically plan out for a caution flag. In this type of a race, you never know if you get a 10-lap run or a 10,000-lap run.
Absolutely, and particularly if you're Matt Taylor, where you were already doing so well in terms of track position as it was. You were in the top 5 already. To me, there's no point for him or Craig Forsyth or Luis Gonzalez Nunez to stay out here. I think it could be a little bit more understandable if you're Dean Mall, if you're Paul Jenkins, who'd been sort of in that top 15, top 20 range. That'll at least give you track position, but yeah, it's going to be very difficult for me to see Matt Taylor's strategy coming good here, because like even if caution comes out in 20 laps, if I was one of the drivers who came down pit road, I wouldn't be pitting there.
Exactly. Already approaching the start of lap 45 this time around. An update coming in on the situation from Gary Gonzo. There are several drivers in this series who run with VR headsets, and of course it's been very much noted some of the troubles for some, in particular Brian Carey in the IndyCar series. Gary Gonzo is in the VR headset club. He's having the technical issues as well this evening. Hence why we've seen him go round for only a few laps past one car, end his night due to said technical issues. Confirmation came in a few moments ago. Hence the issues for the two, and hence why he missed the start of this race. Unfortunate for Gary Gonzo, who was fairly quick in practice.
Yeah, that's why I'm ride or die on my Oculus CV1. I have not upgraded because of some of the other headsets seem to have more trouble with the iRacing and just the compatibility there. As you mentioned, my teammate Brian Carey being one of them. So fortunately, my CV1 seems to be treating me okay for the most part, but it is definitely a danger of VR, because while you get so much more immersion from VR, if it goes out, you're in a whole lot of trouble.
Absolutely. You never know if you're in the middle of a corner. You don't know if you're down the straightaway. It's especially dangerous if you're side by side and it happens. Anytime it happens, hold on to your seatbelts. 115 to go this time by a round. Taylor, the race leader again. Forsyth, Nunez, Fowler, Anzaldo, the top 5. Rest of the drivers who stayed out, Rigney, Mull, and Jenkins. Then it's Ryan Eric King, who was the first of those off the pit lane who pitted. Jasper, DeMade, Goodman, the top 12. Expect a lot of busy battling yet again. The fall off, seeing the drivers who pit after they sorted themselves out take about 5 to 10 laps to get to the drivers who stayed out. Green flag is out. Taylor off and away well. And already a few of the drivers looking to try and take a bit of peeking, but most of the drivers single file out of 2.
Yeah, things a little bit more spread out here on this restart, Justin, but I don't expect that to last for long, particularly with some of the drivers a little bit further back with those fresher tires. You look at Tony Schowen and Joe Brandt are already going too wide here, and they've got Jacob Oster right behind them as well. So I definitely think that we're going to start seeing these guys press just that little bit harder now that there's mired a little bit farther back in the pack. Branch, of course, normally up in that top 5 so far today. He's down in 13th, the first of those cars on those newer tires with that old strategy. I did forget about Jasper, King, DeMade, and Goodman, who have gotten back on strategy as well.
And those cars are 3 wide on that strategy.
Oh my.
Trying to dive it around. Jasper goes middle. King goes outside. DeMade hugs the bottom. Everyone makes it, albeit a little bit of a ping coming from King, who was very close to touching the wall. He gets the run inside for 3.
Yeah, that was a heart and throat moment there for King, but he seems to have gotten away with it, and he's gotten around Jasper. But the problem is that all of this fighting between these guys, it's allowing Paul Jenkins, Dean Mull, Mike Rigney, and the rest of the top 5 to really start to get away from these guys. So they have to be very careful that they don't let the leading group get too far out in front, because then it's going to be very hard for them to reel them back in if we don't get the cautions falling the right way.
Jasper getting cycled now into the heart of all this fighting here too. Goodman outside, electing to go that lane. Matt Wagner trying to jump the queue and boxes in Joe Branch behind Jacob Oster. On the bottom, DeMade still rounds it down. Can't get back side by side with Jasper. Wagner loses all the ground as he can't get clear for the turn 2 exit. That's the tough thing it seems today. Finding that balance of knowing when to pass and hoping you can clear by turn 2 exit, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. Momentum is so important at this racetrack because it basically takes you a full lap to get your momentum back if you screw it up in turns 1 and 2 especially. You just need to be able to carry that momentum, because getting the run is so dependent on having that speed advantage out of turn 2 and into turn 3, and then being able to carry that speed on the bottom of the racetrack is very important as well. So it's really important that these drivers time their runs extremely precisely, because otherwise you lose a lot more than you gain.
Meanwhile, DeMade on the rumble strip, oh boy! 4 wide behind him! Jasper goes middle with Goodman. Goodman backs out of it. DeMade somehow survives.
And Joe Branch with the brave move to the inside there. He barely avoided his teammate Matt Goodman, but he made up 4 positions in one corner there, all because of that bobble from Dakota DeMade on the inside. But this is not done yet here, Justin. We've still got 2x2 action through these corners, and even 3 wide again with Tony Schowen, Michael Goodman, and Andrew Wood towards the inside.
Wood wants his way around Jasper now here too. Wagner side by side with Jacob Oster. Oster with the squeeze, gets the draft down the front stretch. Wagner backs it up, goes back in the line. Does Wood elect to take the send? Of course he does, to the inside of the Dark Horse Racing car.
Oh, this is really tight action here, and nice move there from Andrew Wood, and it does look like Jasper is finally starting to get his momentum back after he just got swallowed up there for about 2 laps after that big moment through turns 1 and 2, and it's really shuffled the order here. Branch and Goodman are now sort of the front of this whole pack here, along with Dakota DeMade, but Jacob Oster is one that I'm keeping my eye on right now, Justin. He's really been moving up. So has Matt Wagner. We were talking earlier that Matt Wagner might not have figured out Gateway quite as well. It looks like he's started to figure it out just a little bit better now.
Seems like that absolutely right now with the flow of things. starting to calm down. Just as I say that, one driver elects to take a hard left and a hard right and down to the flag stand. Checkups in contact. Dupree goes around. Dupree into the wall. The 98 demolished as we're back in our yellow.
And that's a shame for Isaiah Dupree. He was having a nice solid day there. He was just being quietly going about his business, and it looks like he just got caught up in, I think, a bit of a checkup there through turns 1 and 2. And he got run over, and it looks like it'll be day done for Dupree. But who is that right behind him? It looks like, was that... he got into the back of Trevor Malone, and who was that who got into the back of him after that?
Matthew Short.
Yeah, it was Matthew Short, absolutely, and it was just a case of a chain reaction checkup there, so just unfortunate there. But this will be very interesting to see who of these drivers come down to the pit road. There's just nothing that Matthew Short can do there. You can't react in time to check up when something like that happens in there. But we have a number of drivers coming down pit road, but who is going to stay out? That's the real question. We've got a number of drivers staying out. Some drivers who are coming back down, like Christian Jasper, that I wasn't expecting them to. Dakota DeMade with a very interesting move. I don't think that iRacing will let you do that. So I would expect a penalty there from Dakota DeMade potentially. After he exited out of the pit lane there, but we'll see if iRacing has anything to say about that.
Yeah, if he gets the penalty, he'll find it out by the time he passes Blue Cone, believe. Top 9 stay out on the racetrack. Everybody else coming
and we got a spin.
lane.
We got a couple of spins on pit road.
It's Jasper who's around in the middle of the pit lane, right on his pit exit. Not what Jasper wanted to have happen. That loses a majority of the track position. And remember the contact with Taylor earlier? We've got the response and the reason of the longer stop. He looks like he might have had rear wing damage that whole time he was leading that past run.
That's very interesting there from Matt Taylor. I'm not sure where he would have gotten that wing damage.
When he got the hit from Forsyth?
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, Forsyth did get into the back of him. So that probably was just hard enough to knock out that rain light. And that is a mandatory wing change that Taylor had to go through. So Taylor now has everything to do in front of him. Who was it? There was actually 2 spins on pit road. Jasper was one, but Jeff Xiong was another one who spun on pit road there. So that was a very eventful pit road sequence there. No question about it.
So everybody having the spinnies. Gabe Wood coming back to the pit lane this time by. Lights are still on top of the iRacing pace car for reference. Still no word in terms of the situation with DeMade, who is currently 4th on the racetrack with his decision. The first of those off the pit lane with the craziness, Chris Fowler. What a night to charge for the pack. Fowler amongst those who did not set a qualifying time tonight. Second highest in terms of that statistic. First on his strategy, though, which is the key thing, with 100 to go by the time we get rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Fowler's been doing a really good job all night long. He's been one of the drivers who can move through that pack, but I really like the drivers at the front of this field right now, especially Joe Branch, Michael Goodman, those Powerside Motorsports drivers. They're really looking strong, and Jacob Oster in 5th. This is one of those times where Oster has been a guy who's been caught up in a lot of stuff and a lot of incidents not of his own making, but if he's in 5th place, it's far less likely that the misfortune is going to befall him.
It's expected to go off the iRacing pace car this time around to signify the 100 lap to go mark. As we get back rolling, yes indeed we do. Of note, Ryman elects to go to the back again. And Ryman had gained a little bit of the track position he had lost from his initial call to top off earlier this race. He'll have to do it again at the tail end of the lead lap with Gabe Wood. Jim Herrick also coming back in for some additional work. But to reset the field, it's Kane, Branch, Goodman, DeMade, Oster the top 5, Wagner in 6th, Andrew Wood, Tony Shaw, and Shane Coog in the top 9. Then everybody else pit from that point forward. Fowler, Nunez, Rigney, Mall, Jenkins, and Zoldo. The top 15 on the circuit. And all these drivers continuing to showcase those differences in the lift marks in particular we talked about so critical in 1 and 2.
And I'm very interested to see how the rookie Ryan Eric King handles this restart. This is the first time that he's going to lead the Lionheart Speedway Series to a green flag here. So we'll see what the rookie is made of if he can keep the likes of Branch and Goodman behind him.
Out of his starts in the series so far, 4 of them have been DNFs. He finished 23rd in Texas earlier this season. Off and away he goes. King, nice and clean. Behind him in the draft, Joe Branch looks to set it up. Already Jasper amongst those trying to take some peeks in the heart of the pack. Couple others looking to the inside out of turn 2. But King looks to pull away with his first lead laps under speed, all while the others get a little bit busy.
Yeah, there was Tony Schowen taking a look at Andrew Wood there as well. And then we've got Chris Fowler working over Shane Coogan as well, with with Luis Gonzalez Nunez looking as well. So all sorts of battles here, but we definitely do seem to have a little bit of a breakaway here. The top 3, Branch and Goodman have been able to stay with King, but Jacob Oster had to get around Dakota DeMade there into 5th place. DeMade down to 6th now, and it looks like Oster has a little bit of work to do to try and get back into the draft of Michael Goodman in that leading 3.
Meanwhile, on screen, the battle going on for 6th or 7th. 7th with Schowen, 8th with Andrew Wood. Chris Fowler boxed in amongst the bottom at 9th. With Gonzalez Nunez back in the line inside the 10th spot. Lots of boxing in effects being taken to try and complete some of these passes, it seems. Andrew Wood's been boxed in a couple times right behind Tony Schowen in this draft. Fowler's trying it again. Fowler with the squeeze. Near contact in the entry to turn 1.
Yeah, and this is really tight stuff here, especially with some of these drivers like Wood who have stayed out on these tires, so their tires just aren't quite as fresh. And it is just that little bit more dicey when you have those older tires that have gone through a heat cycle, so there's a good amount of respect going on between these two right now. So it's good to see some nice clean racing here, but it can very easily turn ugly in a second, as we've seen a number of times already this race.
Andrew Wood still wanting to keep things busy though, regardless of all this. Trying to leapfrog his way with the draft underneath Tony Schowen. Back up inside the 7th position. Not so fast, says Tony. Tony thinks better of it, Chris Fowler says. Sorry, you didn't think better of it quick enough. He tries the outside and gets it for turn 2 exit.
And now Fowler's got that outside line, and it's going to shuffle Tony Schowen back 1 position. And I really think that Tony needs to be a little bit more patient here and really be more cognizant of the momentum shifts, because he's been caught out a few times now, and it's just not allowed him to be as proactive here. But right now, Justin, though, we've got a battle for the lead. Branch and King going at it.
Branch has taken the lead coming out of turn 2. Branch looking to hold on in front of the Hornets Nest and Company. King going to the higher line, looks to use the diamond off 4. This is full throttled in this part of the racetrack, coming off the banking at 9 degrees. King doesn't go for the send though. He elects to stay in 2nd.
Yeah, really smart driving there from King. I don't think that he quite had the momentum to be able to pull that off, but this is really important for Joe Branch as he's gotten around the rookie, and now he's going to be able to dictate that pace from the front. And this is something that we've not really seen Branch be able to do, but it is definitely something that's in his repertoire, particularly on short tracks. This is the type of track that Joe Branch really likes.
That's Paul Jenkins scraping the wall with the right side tires. Doesn't look like any visual damage from that close scenario. He's still in 13th despite that.
Yeah, but you can see just how much risk these drivers back in the field, they have to take that risk in order to try and make these positions up, because this is where it's really, really competitive, is when you're sort of 6th, 7th in line and you have to find a way to get that advantage. And Jenkins there just cutting it just a little bit too fine, but it looks like, as you say, he's made it through, and he's still all over the back of Luis Gonzalez Nunez here.
Keep in mind, Luis Gonzalez Nunez 3rd in terms of those who pit the previous caution. Chris Fowler, that leader in that strategy window, currently on the track, albeit he needs to find a way around a few of the drivers. In fact, both he and Rigney do. Coogan is the next one up under attack. Coogan tries high side. Coogan still defends well.
And that high side really seems to be working well in 1 and 2, particularly on the older tires. It's just not giving the drivers on the new tires enough grip on that inside to really square up that corner. And of course, every time that they try to go to the inside and fail, it puts them right back into the laps of the people right behind them. So Rigney under fire now from Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Paul Jenkins.
Lap traffic down to the bottom of the track as well. That's Jim Herrick running slow at the bottom of the circuit, curling at 100 miles an hour to the pit lane entry. Out of the way of the race leaders for now. Nunez pushing up the track though. And remember, when it comes to Nunez, this season he's shown good strides in parts of the campaign. When he keeps it clean, he finishes well. When he picks up an incident, he usually finishes in the teens. He tries to move himself towards the edge of the top 11.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some nice growth out of Luis Gonzalez Nunez, as you say. It's just a matter of him taking that one further step and being that consistent threat to not only be in the top 10s, but also to win races. And in order to do that, you have to stay clean. But look at that run from Jorge Anzaldo, trying to make it 3 wide through 1 and 2 there, Justin.
That's a little bit optimistic. He hit the curb, hence why there was such the massive checkup from Anzaldo. All the back to 16th from that. Give some breathing space, though, for Gonzalez Nunez to get to work on Rigney, who's trying to get to work on Coogan still. No sends up the inside yet. In fact, they've lost the draft and then some to 9th position. Here's a look at that main pack. Branch currently leads it. Jacob Oster right at the gearbox of Ryan King. Michael Goodman has dropped from 2nd to 4th this lap already.
Yeah, so Goodman and King were battling there, and Jacob Oster seized on a little bit of a bobble from Goodman there, and Goodman did a good job of limiting the damage and not allowing Matt Wagner to get by. But there's a really strong run here from Matt Wagner. He's been doing a good job of figuring out 1 and 2, and he's really started to get these nice strong runs here, and it looks like he might just be able to make a move here on Michael Goodman through 3 and 4.
Will that be the case? Yes, it is. Wagner clear off the corner, approaching halfway, 84 laps to go. Battle for the race lead is on again. Inside, King wants it again. Outside, Branch gets the pull.
Oh, and back in the field.
Trouble coming out through turn 2. It's Paul Jenkins around, and the caution is out once more. And things got crazy with Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Dean Mull, it seems. The Transcendent Designs sponsored machine hard on the wall again.
Yeah, that's a real shame there for Paul Jenkins, but yeah, so you can see there's a fair bit of air between those two cars, and it was a mirror image of what we saw a little bit earlier into 1 and 2, where probably both of those drivers could have given each other just that little bit more space, but really it's just one of those racing deals, and unfortunately Paul Jenkins really does come out on the wrong side of that. But this throws an interesting strategy card in here, Justin, because we're just on the very outside of the window, if I'm calculating this correctly, to make it on one more stop from here. So I think they should be able to stretch it out, but it'll be very close.
Of note, Dakota DeMade currently out of the race with a technical issue as his car went hard left into the edge of the pit exit wall, as well as part of the infield of the go-kart center. So another driver involved in trouble. Here's Dean Mull's look. And some of the air may have gone him too. Everyone but Christian Jasper is in.
Yeah, and I think this is the sign that everybody wants to try and stretch it from here. So this is sort of the strategy reset yellow that some of these drivers were really looking for, and particularly the likes of Branch, Oster, and Goodman at the front of this field. This is exactly what they were looking for in terms of being able to reset and really solidify their space at the front. Meanwhile, the likes of Matt Taylor or Trevor Malone, they're still mired way back in this field.
They actually lost the draft to that whole busy pack of 10-15 cars fighting prior to the caution flag. Christian Jasper, of note, the only driver in the entire field who has stayed out here. That is a gamble where before everyone was willing to try it. Now with the field coming towards 80 to go likely for the green, that's a little bit tougher to ask.
Yeah, like, here we basically know that everybody who came down pit road is on for a one-stopper, and Christian has to have a two-stop. So basically, he is hoping against hope for a yellow to come out, and the yellow has to come out for him in such a lap number that he is basically almost out of fuel, but not quite out of fuel. It's a really tough strategy ask from Christian Jasper. Not the move that I personally would have made.
See if he elects to try and take a bit of 4D chess moves we've seen from some, and turns it into, essentially, Sunset Arctic graphics design pieces. I'm not sure how to pun that to race name compared to 4D sim racing.
I'm going to leave the puns to you here, Justin.
Very punny. Either way, 80 to go, and Jasper's coming down to the pit lane, possibly. I am not sure about this one. Why not come in the first time around?
I mean, the only thing that I can think of, Justin, is that he was fairly far back in the field anyways. So by doing this, he's going to be much more secure on fuel. It's going to be probably about half a gallon, maybe even 3/4 of a gallon his way in terms of the fuel. So he will be able to press a little bit more. But yeah, I would have just come down, but we do have a couple of other drivers topping off in the back as well.
So, pit stops underway for Jasper, Ryman, Xion, and Jasper spun it again.
Man, that pit exit has been treacherous for Jasper so far, but the one nice thing about coming down pit lane now is there's no one to make contact with him when he spun there, so it'll be a no harm, no foul situation for Jasper, but it could have been a lot worse if he had come down when we all thought he should have.
So just past halfway, of note, there may have been a warning towards the spotter for Andrew Wood as well for the radio communication chatter, or if you have a spotter, you have to make sure that spotter talks strictly to you. Make sure it's not over the full team comm. Right now, Ryan King looking to maintain comm at the point. Joe Branch looking to bring the speed. Just past halfway, Jacob Oster, highest he's been in the running order in weeks. Green flag's back out. Few drivers already going to the middle of the track, coming out of turn 4 to settle things up with the lap cars. Already Branch within drafting distance for King to try and set things up in the next lap or so.
Yeah, really nice start there from Branch, and he knew that he had to get a good start because Jacob Oster also got a really good start. And then look at that 4th place car, the number 3 of Matt Wagner. We talked about him at the beginning of the race. Maybe he hadn't got the racetrack figured out. I'd say by lap 83, we can safely say he's got it figured out. He's up into 4th position with Goodman down in 5th, followed by Woods. So really good adaptations there from Matt Wagner to find the speed in order to get into this top 5.
Oster to the inside for second. Not able to get the run yet on Branch. Despite being a rookie, Oster had so many expectations and he puts himself in the wall.
Yeah, he was just trying to make a hole there, and I think he got a little bit too aggressive there. I'm not sure if he got any damage there, though. He might have just been able to get away with it, but it probably was definitely a heart and mouth moment for Matt Wagner as well, as he saw that number 9 car coming up the track towards him there. So it was an aggressive move from Oster, and I think he's got away with it, though.
Joe Branch still being a bit patient in terms of his fight for the time being. Speaking of fighting, Nunez looking to fight it out with Coogan and company. 9th on back, Nunez inside, Coogan outside along with Mike Rigney. Rigney, though, has that preferred line for the exit. Nunez still wrapping his way around the bottom of the racetrack in this sequence. Dean Moore looking to try outside too. Craig Forsyth along with Matt Taylor in a better position than last run, Andrew.
Yeah, and you can see that the outside right now is really rolling, and Luis Gonzalez Nunez finds himself just in that little bit of trouble because he's just not able to get that good run off of that bottom side, and he's not able to allow the car to track out, and in fact, he goes all the way back now behind Craig Forsyth, so That was about 4 positions lost for Luis Gonzalez Nunez there in the space of a couple of laps.
Meanwhile, Branch took a peek in 3 and 4 for the lead. Oster takes a peek for second. Instead, nearly rides the merry-go-round around the top of the racetrack. Instead, has to hold on to third. Wagner still watches along to the popcorn seat. 3 different lines being used in 3 and 4. Branch still wants to go.
But how impressive, Justin, is that rookie Ryan-Eric King in the lead right now? He is running the exact right line to sort of foil both Joe Branch and Jacob Oster right now, and he's not letting either of them get a particularly good run, although that being said, Branch might just be able to have this run here into turn 3, but it's been very impressive showing from Ryan-Eric King so far.
Branch might be able to get it here. He does. Oster with a good run, but the caution is out again. It's 7th spot. Who brings it out? It's Chris Fowler again in trouble. Caution is out, and Fowler has continued to have bad luck strike in good runs. This time, Tony Schowen bounces off him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Tony just pushes up there, and really there was nothing that Fowler could do. That was a mistake from the 31 car of Tony Schowen, no doubt about it. Just pushes up off that bottom line. I think he probably got a little bit of more aero wash than he was expecting, but it's one of those things where the car that makes the mistake at this track, it's very rarely the car that actually suffers the consequences. So just another day where Chris Fowler just cannot seem to buy any luck.
With that 20 cars still running on the lead lap from iRacing's virtual worldwide technology raceway. More coverage of the Gomez Sim Industries Gateway 200 coming up right around the corner. You're watching RaceSpot TV and ESTV for coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moza Racing.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling. You're looking high above Worldwide Technology Raceway as we're under caution with 69 laps to go. Tonight's action for the Gomez Sim Industries Gateway 200 here on RaceSpot and ESTV. Justin Prince, Andrew Kinsella with you with Tyler Maxson in the producer's seat tonight.
Or right now, it is Joe Branch, Ryan Eric King, Jacob Oster, the top three. The attrition, it's been very high tonight. 20 lead lap cars remaining, 22 in total still running.
Yeah, this has definitely been a high attrition race so far. We've seen a number of incidents, and the thing about a short track like this is when you have a spin in front of a pack, you'll often take out 2 or 3 cars, and that's what we've seen here today. But there's still 20 drivers on the lead lap, as you mentioned, and any of them have a shot at winning this as we're about to take the green here, Justin.
Everybody stay out the previous caution flag except for Matt Taylor and Samuel Ryman. Those two at the back elected to top off. But it's Branch back in control of the pack. He started inside the top 3. He's led 18 of the 91 complete so far. He goes to the middle of the track for the restart. Back underway. King able to time it up well. Jacob Austin even better looking to try. And here's some Austin Powers moves for second. No.
Yeah, Oster all over the back of Ryan Eric King here, and that was a little bit of a veteran wily move there from Joe Branch, knowing that you have a rookie in this series here. He gets a little bit tricky on that restart, and I think it's just given him just enough breathing space to sort of settle into a rhythm here, but Ryan Eric King not letting that leader get away from him.
Up around the middle of the track, King tries to still set things up regardless. Matt Wagner keeping up with Oster. Could have been losing a bit of ground off the jump for 5th position. Big blocking between all the 2 team logoed cars up in front, the similar scheme should say. Branch did not want to let King go inside. Oster goes outside and gets squeezed to the wall.
Oh, that was really, really close. I think Oster was able to just keep it there, but King is still squeezing Oster, and Oster just bravely puts it around the outside there, Justin. Put Jacob Oster in a second place with that power move around the outside there.
Lots of fire being played with here, to say the very least. Ryan Eric King drops back to 3rd. Continues to stay busy up at the front, to say the very least, though, but Jacob Oster, one goal has to be in the mind of that number 9 machine. Make the pass. Coogan, he's trying to make one still for the battle for 8th. Nunez with the bobble behind him.
Man, I am on the edge of my seat here, Justin, because all of these drivers are pushing extremely hard right now. We're approaching that 60 lap to go window as we see a battle for the lead of the race. Jacob Oster looking to the outside of Joe Branch here. And Oster's really made that high line work. Oh, big incident with Greg Forsyth.
He grinds on top of the wall. Caution flag is back out. Just as Oster was trying to make the pass on Branch, he might have gone in the scoring loop. We'll have to see if Branch got it. Boy, Branch did. Apologies over the radio because of this.
And it's the same point on the track that we've seen this happen a number of times here, Justin. I just wonder if there's a small blip in the prediction code, because that's about the 3rd incident we've seen where there's been, I think, more room than everybody, or less room than everybody seemed to think that there was. And I don't think that was anyone's fault. And again, we see an innocent victim in Craig Forsyth. His day is going to be done here.
Joe Branch did get the scoring loop, by the way. No strategy difference up towards the front here. Here's the crazy thing about Oster and his season. He was just about to take the lead for what would have been the first time all season for a driver with a high amount of expectations. Knowing some of the experience on the platform, but also knowing how well he's showcased his speed at some of the tracks. Here's the biggest problem. Surviving the massive crashes in the strategies. Homestead, top 6. Was involved in a big one in 1 and 2. Texas finished 2nd after trouble happened with the restart. Milwaukee, fast, didn't finish. Pocono, fast, finished 25th. Atlanta showed decent speed, 13th. Kentucky got himself in the back of the pack to start from qualifying, involved in the trouble early. It's not been pretty for the factory back car.
No, but time again, we see that once he gets into this top 5 position, he is just so good at making the moves that he needs to make to really close this out. And particularly now that the sun has started to set, the track temperature's coming down even further. This is the type of race that Jacob Oster really excels at. We're down to just 23 degrees Celsius here now. And I think it's going to be a really fascinating duel between Joe Branch and Jacob Oster, because Jacob Oster is clearly very hungry here. But Joe Branch, he's that patient sort of driver who will sort of take what the race is giving him for a large portion of the race, and then suddenly he's there at the end and making the move to win. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether Joe Branch and Jacob Oster go shot for shot here with 60 to go, or whether Joe Branch maybe gives him the spot and then comes back at him closer to the end of this race.
For those keeping track of the trends at home, by the way, the average runs about 10 laps, or longest run about 15 laps tonight. 60 to go next time around the racetrack. Still outside that pit window. Here's the major thing. If we get to that mark where, say, we do pass 15 laps on a run, 3 drivers are in the driver's seat if there isn't a caution, so to speak, before 40 to go at this mark. Taylor, Ryman, Xian. All 3 drivers have topped off. Xian, remember, was amongst those in the attrition earlier. They're 17th, 18th, 19th for the restart.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say basically all of these drivers who didn't top off, they're trying to make it as far into this run as they can. I would say they could even potentially go as long as lap 125 with all the caution that we've been having here. And then you look at Matt Taylor, Jeff Xiong, and Sam Ryman, they can go a substantial amount longer. But will their tires be as good at the end of that run? And will the likes of Joe Branch, Jacob Oster be able, or will they be able to keep them one lap down for long enough for it to matter? Or will we even get to see another round of green flag pit stops? Because we seem to not be able to string together a very long run here so far today, Justin.
Christian Jasper may or may not have heard that thought of the 3 drivers to back and said, I want to join the party too. With the help of his spotter in Westshire today, he's gone to the pit lane and topped off as well, as the lights go on top of the iRacing pace car. Resetting your top 10 once more: Branch, Oster, King, Wagner, Goodman, Andrew Wood, Tony Schowen, Dean Mall, Shane Coogan, Mike Rigney. The top 10 for this restart. Biggest mover? Michael Goodman still, who is amongst the EOL, so it's even more than the 23 when you consider it, since he had grid slot 28.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a real turnaround race for Michael Goodman, and it's good to see him finally having some good luck here, because he's started up front in a number of races and it hasn't finished well for him. Hopefully he can bring it home today, but I think we're about to go green, and Jacob Oster is already looking hungry on this restart.
Jacob Oster be able to time things up. He's one at the top for every pass. Branch is giving him the top to time it up. Branch says bye-bye from the middle. A huge launch for Branch. Already, Luis Gonzalez Nunez thinking of a poke? No. Oster half a second back already.
Yeah, really nice restart there from Joe Branch. He saw Jacob Oster hesitate just a little bit, and he went right on that hesitation, and it was a really good restart. Meanwhile, I think the battle for third is heating up here. Matt Wagner really looking at the back of Ryan Eric King here, and I think we might have a move here into one from the 3 car.
No move coming in on that prediction, but Oster might try in the next few laps we've seen. Here's the difference between him and the rest of the pack in terms of Oster's moves. Oster's made it clear. You let him get the run high side. He wants that from you. He wants you to go defensive inside.
Yeah, but that being said, he looked low there on the front straightaway, tucks back in behind Joe Branch, and yeah, he is just not moving off of that high side. But what he did do there is he fed a face full of arrow wash to Ryan Eric King, and that's putting Matt Wagner onto the inside here of that number 4 car. We might see a move here through 3 and 4, but it's going to be hard for Wagner to get by him because he just doesn't have that ability to go back out. Oh.
Oster touched him. Oster touched him with a bump. Oster wants to try something different. He goes for the slider into 1 and 2. Not gonna work as Branch clears him.
And that's checked Jacob Oster up, and here comes Ryan Eric King back into the fight here, and he's going to look low on Jacob Oster into 3, slides up the racetrack, and here comes Matt Wagner on Ryan Eric King.
Matt Wagner gets himself some contact. King saws his front wing off. No damage, it looks like, on Wagner. He gets lucky.
Yeah, but that, I think, lit a fire under Wagner. He took a very aggressive line through 1 and 2, got the draft here. He's looking to see if he can find a way around Ryan Eric King. I don't think he very much appreciated that move there. Meanwhile, Andrew Wood just got around Michael Goodman, and Tony Schowen also looking to the inside of his teammate.
Schowen, though, getting freight train with Dean Mall, now working on the draft from Goodman. Goodman clear of them. They calm down for a split second. Keyword, the split second, because Goodman wants to feed draft to Schowen now.
Yeah, but he needed to come back up in order to get the good arc into this corner, and that's allowed Dean Mall right around Tony Schowen. But this is some really nice action here. We're back at the lead. Jacob Oster's found a way to the outside. Can he make it stick through 1 and 2 this time?
Oster peeled him off the wall. Branch gets peeled out of the race lead. Contact to the wall for King. To the inside goes Wagner. He drives by Branch as well. Kane hobbles his way at the top of the racetrack. He is slow at the top of the circuit. Significant damage for the 4.
Yeah, that was a big impact with the wall for Ryan Eric King, and I think that that's going to be the day done for the rookie, at least in terms of potentially winning this race. But the big story there was just how much Joe Branch had to get checked up off of 2 there, and has allowed Matt Wagner suddenly to go from 4th to 2nd, and here comes Andrew Wood on the inside of Joe Branch now.
He tries to drive that wood panel machine up into the top 3 for the first time. He does, clearing by Joe Branch. 51 to go, this time by around the stripe. He is also trying to find some battling right behind them of note. The rest of the pack starting to show layer after layer, with more drivers struggling off 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely getting into that dicey situation, especially if you've used up some of your tires, where you start really feeling that aero push. And a lot of these drivers, they haven't come in for 30 odd laps here, Justin. So it's definitely, the tires are starting to get worn out now that they're getting a full heat cycle in them.
Dean Mall having some bobbles, though, wants to get away and get himself to the inside of Joe Branch. A big lunge. Mole clears on by 2 cars in 1 entry.
Nice move there from Dean Mall. He maximized that turn 2 exit, and he really got a big run down that back straightaway. Now the power slide drivers, they're P5, 6, and 7 with Schowen there, but Luis Gonzalez Nunez also looking to potentially break up this battle. But it looks like Michael Goodman is really starting to emerge as the strongest driver in this power slide trio right now.
Here's the bigger question. What's going on with Joe Branch with his massive slide down from the top spot to 6th in the course of this run so far? And looking like he's up for grabs for another spot. Tony Schowen passes him.
Yeah, I think part of it is he just got out of rhythm with everything, and I almost wonder if he might have gotten a little bit of damage with racing with Jacob Oster there. It's hard to tell from this particular angle. I don't see anything wrong with his car, but he definitely just doesn't seem to have the car under him anymore in order to fight. It's certainly not as strong as it was, but you never underestimate the power of momentum here, and just having to spend like 3 or 4 laps here defending that high line and maybe just getting back his momentum and getting his feet back under him.
HyperX on board. A quick look as Coogan's trying to find a way around. He's poked inside twice. Now he tries it this time around. Getting the better speed at the bottom. Not able to clear, though. Near contact, in fact, with the bubble.
Yeah, really close stuff there off of 2, and we keep on coming back to that. That is the danger zone here on the track. I'm looking at Joe Branch's car, Justin. I don't see any damage to this car. Maybe the rain light is slightly askew. That could be the only thing that I'm seeing here, but I don't see anything wrong. I think it's just a case of he's gotten so out of sorts with that big lift that it's just taken a long time for him to gather it back up.
For the race lead, things are getting intriguing, though. Andrew Wood passed by Wagner a lap ago. He looks to pass by Oster this time. To the inside with 44 to go. coming up to the pit window. Wood sends it below the first seam. Oster keeps his foot planted for the exit.
And Joe Branch in the wall off of 2. He just got drop kicked into the wall.
Caution is out, and this
Trevor
gets
Malone
wild.
too.
Malone with contact. He was right behind Branch before the contact with Coogan.
And unfortunately, I'm going to have to put more of the blame there on Shane Coogan. He drifts up on the exit of 2 there. There was a little bit of net code as well. And then poor Trevor Malone just nowhere to go there.
And that error with a power drop in that sequence. Several major dodges in that as well. Seen amongst those, Matthew Short, who, despite being involved in an incident earlier, is up to 13th with that. Down to 17 cars running on the lead lap. Likely down to 16 once Branch can find his way to the pit lane because he's just spun in turns 1 and 2. In 3 and 4, into the pit lane go the leaders. This likely the last stop of the race for the pack.
Yeah, and it will be just a little bit of a fuel save here. So this is going to be very interesting to see how these drivers play this out, especially if you're Jacob Oster, Andrew Wood, or Matt Wagner, because it's going to be more difficult for the leaders to save the fuel that they need, instead of if you're back in the pack, the real drivers who didn't want to see this, though, Justin. Matt Taylor, he's only up to about 11th or so position right now. So those series of pit stops that he made, it just won't pay off for him. Sam Ryman, though, staying out right now.
He does get the lead lap, so that's worth some points for Ryman. Oster the first off the lane. Wood, Wagner, Mull, Goodman. Top 5 off that mark. Might see the 59 coming this time. Here's a look from Rigney. Sergi Motorsports black car having to go middle.
Yeah, the seas just parted there from Rigney, and I can tell you that sometimes it's just you have to aim for where the cars are right now and hope that they aren't there by the time you get there. And it looked kind of like that's what the Rigney did there, Justin.
Indeed, Rigney with that Dodge up to 10th position after the pit stops. And with the attrition levels building higher, surprisingly higher than Milwaukee Mile right now, this is towards the trends we've seen last year at Worldwide Technology Raceway, though. When you can think about the caution trends from 2021, Andrew, this is a tough track to survive at, as we've seen after 20 laps on the tires.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to keep the tires, and you need to keep the car under you, and you need to be very careful that you don't damage your car in any way, because we've seen a number of times that while these cars are fairly strong, that just hitting the wall the wrong way can really put a dent in your day and drop you significantly off the pace. So it's a really difficult challenge that these drivers have had before them today, and we have 16 cars now on track that have sort of risen to the top. We basically got half the drivers in the race have made it this far, and half of them are on the sidelines right now. So it's a tough track, it's a tough race, and it's tough to avoid a wreck that happens in front of you, but we really have some very strong drivers at the front of this field right now.
As we expected, Sammy Rahman coming in this time around for his pit stop. And you talk about drivers rising up and making it to this mark. The intriguing thing and the spectacular thing when it comes to this facility, if you remember back in the start of the 2010s, this facility was supposed to close because of the financial crisis from 2007 and 08. Dover Motorsports, the at the time owners, had planned to close this facility. Then it was purchased and reopened the following year, and it's gone from being at the brink of not being in existence anymore to now hosting the NASCAR Cup Series this year, the NTT IndyCar Series, as well as on the drag strip, the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series, all in the same year this year.
Yeah, and it really is a nice facility. They've repaved large portions of the track and the apron, and the new owners have just done marvelous things with it. And you're absolutely right. And it's one of those tracks where it's such a unique track, and it would be such a shame to lose it, because we have enough of the sort of cookie cutter tracks, the 1.5 milers. This is just its own challenge all unto itself. whether it's in an IndyCar or a NASCAR, and it always seems to produce some really fun action. You saw how much fun we had watching Grosjean last year in the real world, and today we've had a whole bunch of action all throughout the field. So it's very good that this facility has kept up and is keeping on going.
With 39 laps to go, Jacob Oster looks to make a bit of history of his own. It's been a rough year for the 9. He leads them to the green with 39 to go. Back on her way from Gateway. Wood and Wagner right behind through 1 and 2, looking to set things up. Once the first dive to the inside, Matt Taylor looking to make some moves.
And Matt Taylor, he knows that it's go time now. That strategy call, it didn't work out, so now he's in 10th entering this first lap, so he knows that he has to make these moves, especially while his tires are still good. But you can already see that Jacob Oster, he knows that it's go time. The stake is already starting to happen, trying to break that draft and break the runs up of the drivers behind him. Tony Schown, another driver who's shown some speed today, but he just hasn't been able to entirely put it together. Dean Molo, he is a driver on the move, Justin. We saw him take a 2-for-1 earlier, and he is all over the back of Matt Wagner now for third position.
It's been a while since he's visited victory lane in this series. Remember, he started off the history of this series with a victory in Japan. His best run of the season, 9th at Pocono. Still in line, looking for his first top 5, if not more, this time out after the DNF at Kentucky last time.
And Mole gets onto the apron there, and he got loose, but he kept his foot in it, and he's got some real runs on Matt Wagner these last few laps. And I really think that Mole, as you mentioned, he started out the history of this series with the win. He is due for another win, and he is looking very, very racy with 35 laps to go here.
And that was a race where strategy was critical in that mark for the victory that day. Meanwhile, Taylor has jumped up to battled with the 9th position, should say, with Rigney. He's still watch along with Wagner, looking to sort things out for the second on backpack. Still looking to get himself some distance. Wagner, not an easy car to pass right now.
No, Wagner's occupying that high side through 1 and 2, and the interesting thing with Dean Mull is he started figuring out how to work the low side. So you see Wagner, he'll run that extreme outside, but then Dean Mull, he's going the complete opposite. The other 2 cars in front, they're sort of running the middle. Mull will run right down to that rumble strip there on the bottom, and it's been working well for him, but he just can't seem to quite get the run that he needs in order to make that pass work.
33 to go this time. And the crazy thing with all that on the bottom side, Dean Mull again hitting the rumble strips that time. Somehow that works for him.
Yeah, and it's not the way that I would personally like to go around this track, but if it's working for him, who am I to say that it's not? Meanwhile, Matt Taylor getting very close to Shane Coogan there. He got around Mike Rigney there for a second, but with that checkup that he had to do on the exit, that's allowed Rigney back by him. So it was a case of 1 step forward and 2 steps back there for Matt Taylor.
He looks to take another step forward. Gabe Wood trying to take a few hundred steps forward. Amongst that fight as well to close up the 10 car lengths. Looking for another top 10 to build up a streak there for the rookie. Taylor again with the peak. These cars have almost lost the draft to 7th, however.
Yeah, and they can't afford to do that, Justin, because it'll be so difficult for any of these drivers to get back with the aero wash as it is. It's very difficult. This car, basically, it has a bubble that you almost need to punch through, and at a track like this, it's very difficult to do that. And once you get past that bubble, you can really draft up. But once you get past that second, it's really, really difficult to get it back.
Coogan dropping the spot as well, looking back at the leaders yet again. 30 laps to go now. Still, Dean Mull yet to find a way forward. And the main thing I've noticed too is a lot of patience being shown this run. The caution came at a good time, yes, to make it to the end. It's not a full guarantee per se, though, because it technically, with the restart, was at 40 to go.
Yeah, and I do think that a number of these drivers will be fuel saving a fair bit here. And the intriguing part for me is Jacob Oster and Andrew Wood out in front. They've been setting a pretty good pace out there. It doesn't seem like they're really fuel saving, but I do think that they might need to at a certain point in this run, because like you look at the likes of Matt Wagner, normally we're used to him being a lot more aggressive, but right now he's being very, very patient, and I think he's doing a really good job of saving the fuel that he needs to make it to the end guaranteed.
May have noticed on the pylon, Jeff Xian losing a few spots. He has been warned by race control for technical issues, so he has dropped to the back of the pack. Lap traffic stays down low, and Jim Herrick stays out of the trouble. Matt Wagner looks for a little bit of shuffling for second to the inside of Wood and clear of Andrew.
And that was really easy there from Andrew Wood, so I'm almost wondering whether he purposely let him by, but that was one of the easier moves that we've seen through 3 and 4, and Wood seems to be dropping back fairly quickly here.
The most speed I've seen him hit towards the straightaways, 179 miles per hour. Some of the drivers seem to be, as soon as they hit 180, starting to try and crack the throttle, try and keep it at 178, rather than go higher than that.
And it's all to do with the RPMs. If you can hit the RPMs, that's one way that you can fuel save, although I personally like it more with the bigger lifts into turn 1, but it's definitely one of the ways. If you start to get into the rev limiter just a little bit, then you ease back off the throttle and sort of let the car run at 70% throttle or so. But yeah, it just looks like right now Wood, he's in major fuel saving mode, and it's allowing Wagner to just escape him just this little bit. But my big question right now is, can Jacob Oster make it on fuel? Because it is a little bit of a save, so he's going to have to at some point start running those fuel numbers and see whether or not this is going to work, as Dean Mull gets around Andrew Wood now.
So the panic buttons are starting to be pressed. Also, the substitutions, for those wondering, for the that was easy buttons from back in the day. Wood right now not having an easy time with this. And here's the tough thing too with the management of the fuel, whether it's with the RPMs or whether it's the lift method to go earlier on the entry and back it up. Some drivers may be saying, I'll do it at the end. Others will say, I'll do it right now and then push. That's the difficult balance here amongst this pack.
Well, and you could hear Michael Goodman get out of the throttle in the middle of the straightaway there as he's behind Andrew Wood. So he is definitely one of the drivers who are really trying to save here. And I'd say that Goodman is one of the more experienced drivers in this car. And if anyone can save the fuel required, it's going to be him. And he's going to use the likes of Andrew Wood right in front of him. Meanwhile, Luis Gonzalez-Nunez just got around Tony Schowen as well. So I think a number of these drivers are saving, and I think maybe some of these drivers up at the front, they aren't saving anymore, Justin.
There are a few drivers who, if it comes down to that point, who are in a good spot. Remember the top-offs under the caution flags. George Anzaldo, Samuel Ryman are the only two who are in that top-off grouping who could make it much easier than the others. Here's the look at the battle for the race lead, because Jacob Oster, he went from 7/10 up to just 1/10. Oster may have realized what's going on. He's back down the pace.
Yeah, I think Oster absolutely realized that he's not making the fuel number that he needs to, because not only is Matt Wagner into this fight, but Dean Mull is also in this fight. And Mull, I think, is probably in the best shape out of all of these three drivers, because he's been following Matt Wagner very closely throughout this run. And the closer that you can follow behind, the bigger the advantage in fuel saving, because you just get the cleanest air possible and the biggest hole punched in the air right there. So I think Dean Mull, out of the top three right now, he's probably situated the best in terms of fuel.
Ring true to what we've seen from Twin Rim Motegi, ringing true to a few of the races we've seen from the first season in Lionheart Speedway Series competition. By the way, Toto and company, they're gaining ground amongst this whole pack despite falling to 7 seconds behind all this. So these cars are really toning down the pace to the 26.3s. Remember, earlier on in the race, the fastest laps were in the 25.4s.
And it's just a case that no one wants to lead, so Oster is just going as slowly as he needs to make his fuel number at this point. But at a certain point, some of the drivers behind him, they're going to have made their number and they're going to start to turn the wick up. Another thing to note here, Justin, Matt Taylor, Shane Coogan, they are now all the way back up because of how far Oster has backed up this group. It is no longer just a 7-car battle, it is now a 9-car battle here.
Confirmation just received from Factory Back's camp. Their average runs tonight are calculated 12 laps. Oster's plan, hope for another caution. Here's the tough part. This is the longest run of the race now.
And this is the fewest number of cars on track, so we have fewer and fewer opportunities for caution. And here's the thing, as we watch Luis Gonzalez Nunez getting very aggressive
Dean
here.
Moll looking to pass by 2 cars for the lead. Dean Moll, did he hit his number? He looks to hit the race lead pylon, yes.
I think that is a clear indication that Dean Moll is one of the drivers who has hit their number. But the question is, has he properly accounted for just how much more fuel he's going to use up in this clean air? He might be good for now, but we might see him backing down in just a few laps as well. But right now, he has gone to the lead of this race, and he might just be in the catbird seat. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, another driver who has been steadily working his way forward here. So it'll be very interesting to see whether he has enough fuel as well. But the best people right now in this lead group for me, Andrew Wood, Michael Goodman, and Matt Taylor should have a whole bunch of fuel here left over.
Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he's been showing a few pokes a couple times now. He wants to go, but nowhere for Nunez to go yet. Under 14 laps to go now in this race, running the middle seams. Wood still staying in that line for now, everyone else staying bunched together. By the way, 13th has gained a second the past 2 laps with some of the shuffling and a bit more aggressive saving now from this pack. 13 to go.
And Dean Moll starting to go away just slightly from Jacob Oster, stretch that lead out, I should say. And I think that's just a case of Oster. He has a number that he has to hit that's almost impossible at this point, I think. Matt Wagner similarly, but now you're going to see Andrew Wood probably start to make his way back up as he might have hit his number, and also look for the likes of Matt Taylor, Michael Goodman to start making their way up as well, because I think all of these drivers, they're in save mode. They're going to have to try to figure out what the number is, and it's going to be changing lap to lap depending on how fast they're going.
Still side by side of the battle for 3rd spot. Wood back in the line, but you mentioned that number. Taylor has picked up 2 spots the past 2 laps. He watches behind Nunez to set things up. Wood close to the rear wing of Wagner. Down to 11 to go.
This is fascinating stuff here, Justin, because you as the broadcaster, you just don't know who has done what. And you can see that Dean Moll, he did a couple of laps at 25.8s, 25.7s, and now he's back into the 26.1s. So I think he's realized that maybe leading isn't exactly where he wanted to be this early. But at the same time, Jacob Oster, he's got a mountain to climb. And Andrew Wood now looking for 2nd place here.
10 to go. He goes for the stamped send. It doesn't stick to the envelope, though. Wagner, will he take a chance to pounce back? No, he lifts. Wagner still being patient in this. Wood on the aggressive.
It's such a chess match going on. Everybody's playing 4D chess, not just the 4D sim racing team here, because you have to be so cognizant of not getting too far. As now finally Andrew Wood does clear by Jacob Oster, so that's a big move for Andrew Wood, because I think Jacob Oster, he's really still trying to save a lot of fuel here. But this will be telling for Dean Moll is whether Andrew Wood can get up there and challenge him here, because if he can, that might just be the impetus that Moll needs to use up a little bit more fuel. Matt Taylor, another one looking to get through here, but it's so important for all these drivers to find a way to save fuel while still making moves, and it's incredibly difficult to do.
Massively difficult. Remember, when it comes to Taylor, he's trying to recover from dominating early, then picking up rear wing damage, losing him all the track position early. He's up to 5th.
Oh, for the lead here.
Here comes Wood with the draft. Under 7 to go. To the inside goes Andrew Wood. He zips by Moll like he's standing still. Can Dean Moll get the pullback?
And meanwhile, Matt Taylor's looking to the inside of Matt Wagner here, so Taylor might be just knocking on the door of a podium as well. But man, and now the question is, Justin, who is going to have the fuel advantage between Wood and Mole? Because again, it's such a huge help to have that draft in front of you. So will Andrew Wood still be secure in his fuel number even though he's leading, and will Mole be able to save some fuel now and then go back and fight with Wood come the last lap of this race? I have no idea what's going to happen here with just 5 laps to go.
Coming to that mark, point of return next time around. Wood leads by 2/10. Taylor still boxed in behind Oster and Wagner. 6/10 back of the race leaders for the moment. To the inside, Taylor for 4th spot. Wagner gives him a bit of space, keeps the throttle in it, makes contact. Both of them slide. They hold on to it as Nunez drives by.
They hold on to it, but it's a massive checkup, and that's going to let Jacob Oster get far off into the distance here, and Luis Gonzalez Nunez suddenly finds himself in 4th position here, but Matt Taylor and Matt Wagner will be looking to get right back at him again. The question is, can they get back to Jacob Oster? But the real question for me is, at the front of this field, who is it going to be between Wood and Mole? Because I think those are the two that are going to decide this race here.
Word from the box for Jason Brophy. Wood has gotten the green light. He is good to go, full out the rest of the way. Dean Mall, he's going full out behind him. 3 laps to go from Gateway. No move yet from Mall. He waits behind and lifts early.
Both of them running that high line and using as much of the track as they can. Dean Mull, he's going to have to time this run perfectly, and it's going to be so difficult because the tires are just about at the end of their lives right now. So he's got one more shot at it. 2 laps to go. I think he's got to time this run perfectly, find a way to get through 1 and 2 well this lap, and make the move coming into turn 1 with 1 to go. And Wood leaves that bottom lane open. Will Mull be able to get a run off of this corner here?
He needs to close 3/10 to have a shot. Lap and a half to go. Coming up towards the final time around, 1.25 miles once they hit the stripe. Mull still 2.25 seconds back. 1.25 miles to go.
Just not quite close enough for Mull. He's got one more shot at this. He's got to find a way to dig deep as Wood almost gets in the wall.
One to the wall. Taylor gets spun behind. Side by side for the lead down the backstretch. Mull on the inside. One on the outside. He tries to diamond it back. Will Mull be able to make it to the checkered? Will Wood drop them back? No. Mull's got it. Mull wins the Gomez Sim Industries Gateway 200 in a fantastic finish.
What a move there from Dean Mull. Andrew Wood, with just a small mistake, carried too much momentum through turns 1 and 2, and Dean Mull, with the opportunistic move, gets it done. What a move, what a finish, and what a race win for Dean Mull there. He did it on fuel strategy in the series debut, but this one was all down to driving from Dean Mull.
What a finish. 10 laps led for the 23, and for the first time in a long while, Dean Mull breaks through. His best finish before tonight, 9th in 2022. He gets to burn it down for the first time this season. What a finish.
Absolutely unbelievable. And we haven't even talked about the chaos that happened in the back here. Here's what's happened. Matt Taylor and Luis Gonzalez Nunez. So you see Jacob Oster, he was pushing so hard, he pushed it in the wall. Matt Taylor followed him, and then Luis Gonzalez Nunez, just an innocent bystander there. And there was even more fireworks through turn 3 with Michael Goodman and Luis Gonzalez Nunez as cars were checking up everywhere. But just heartbreak for 3 drivers on that last lap there, with Oster, Nunez, and particularly Matt Taylor. But elation for Goodman and Schowen and Wagner there.
Let's take a look at the unofficial race results brought to you by SimRace247.com. Dean Mull breaks on through for Synergy Motorsports. He's your winner by 0.105 seconds. Matt Wagner finishes in 3rd, then Craziness on back. In the hard fighting for 4th, Michael Goodman survives for 4th position, one of his best runs of the year in terms of finishing position. Tony Schowen in 5th, Shane Coogan quietly to 6th, Gabriel Wood keeps the top 10 streak alive in 7th. Mike Rickney, Samuel Ryman, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, the top 10. 11th spot tonight, Jacob Oster. What a heartbreak for Oster, leading late, and then he has to save the gas, and then falls 11 seconds back of the checkered as part of the craziness. George Enzotto trying a different strategy. He got within 6 seconds of the craziness, but gets up to 12, 13 seconds back instead of the end. Jeff Shion, Kristen Jasper, 14th, 13th respectively, flip that around. Matthew Short, he had a topsy-turvy night for Infinite. He finishes 15th. Matt Taylor did not make it to the checkered flag. In 16th is where he ends up. Big Joe Hassert with technical problems did return back to the track for Transcendent Motorsports and still finished 17th. That jumped him ahead of Jim Herrick, who had a race high in pit stops for an 18th place finish. He visited the pit lane 12 times tonight. Joe Branch with the DNF tonight, along with Trevor Malone for the top 20. 21st went to Ryan King, a heartbreak for King. His best run in the series, 15 laps led. It ends with massive side pod damage. Greg Forsyth rides the top of the safer barrier like a skateboard for 22nd. Chris Fowler after his incident, 23rd. Paul Jenkins, 24th with Dakota DeMade, having some technical issues, so to speak, in 25th. Isaiah Dupree in 26th. AJ Musselman finished 27th as part of a big incident involving Brian Beard in 28th. Braden Carter, Ron Hacker, the top 30. 31st spot went to Gary Gutso after VR issues. Gavin Sanders, a part of the first caution, and James Watson did not take the green flag tonight. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, the purple lap for the race, 25-second bracket. With that, it's time to head to our HyperX post-race show, as the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. Let's dive straight into HyperX Victory Lane, where Dean Mull put on a fantastic run to the checkered. He and Andrew Wood swapped back and forth, right up to the checkered, down the back straightaway to set things up. And Dean Mull now joins us from HyperX Victory Lane. Dean, you've done it again. It took a while for a second victory. You do it in fantastic fashion tonight.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, this one kind of surprised me. I kind of struggled, didn't get a lot of laps in practice, so starting mid-pack, but was able to make some passes, and again, fuel savings. That seems to be the thing I can do well in these cars, so it worked out.
Talk us through, though, that progression through the final laps, because you get passed by Wood, who's gotten the green light already from his crew, and then the final lap happens and all craziness breaks loose.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't expecting that. He just kind of got tight in 1 and 2, and that's what opened up the door for me to get low and get past him there. We're both on synergy, so we were kind of talking through fuel numbers, and I went to the front when I had enough, just kind of maintaining pace. Then he was able to go full rich and get back past me there. Then I was just kind of riding behind him. I told him a couple laps to go. I was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm not going to do anything dumb. And like I said, he just had a couple bad corners and opened it up. So I'll take it. It's always nice to be in victory lane. So no matter how you get them, they're pretty sweet in this league.
An incredible finish, to say the very least, Dean. And talk about that progression from the first time we seen you in victory lane to start off the series history to now, because there's been a lot of ups and downs. Best finish before tonight was 9th with some attrition points at some marks. How would you describe that progression to get back to victory lane now tonight?
To be honest, yeah, points-wise, it's been a struggle. So I had a good start to last season with the win, a couple top 5s right after that, and then kind of got to some DNFs, some wrecks, didn't finish. This year kind of started out the same way. It's a lot of inconsistency. It's kind of a situation now. It's like I'm not really racing for points anymore, so just go out every week, do the best I can, and this is a track that's always suited me. I always seem to run well at Gateway. So for whatever reason, Retro Series here, it's just been a good track for me. Can make the high line work in 1-2 and get some passes done there, which really pays off on the long runs.
Congratulations on the victory tonight, Dean.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank everybody at Synergy Racing. Appreciate them having me on for another year. Got a 1-2 finish for Synergy tonight, so that's pretty sweet. And as always, a race for Kinetic on the endurance side, so I want to mention racing for John. We're still thinking about him. Always good to have a good finish and get to mention that hashtag. So thank you guys for the broadcast. Appreciate everything you do. HyperX, Lionheart, it's a great league to be part of. So thanks.
Dean Mall, your winner tonight here at Gateway. An incredible run to the end. It's time to flip to the other side of the coin, though. Andrew Wood finished in second spot for tonight's action. He now joins us as well. Andrew, what happened on the final lap?
If I knew, I'd tell you. Car reacted very strangely when I turned in turn one. I was kind of teetering at the edge of the fuel tank there, so I was wondering if perhaps I had like an initial cough or something, but when I turned in, the car just drifted up the track, and I was going to take the wall down, so I had to lift, and that's what KT'd the run. But all that being said, I learned so much this race, and just in terms of my patience and everything like that, and I will absolutely take this second place. Dean and I were working together at the end there. I'm not sure if you mentioned that, but I was trying to work with him and work with my spotter Phil Krause at the same time, so it was kind of tricky to kind of balance all that was going on, but I will absolutely take the second place and be happy with it.
Especially since the major thing on all this is it came down to the longest run of the race to close it out. Fuel a concern. The green light trigger was given heads up from one of your air crew members and Jason Brophy. What was that like at the time in terms of that intensity level where some were saving? Yeah, Jacob Oster banking on a caution that didn't come out, and then everybody else in the in-between.
It was definitely kind of a mix and match of, Phil was telling me to go. I was like, I'll just try and save behind him, but saving behind one car is not efficient enough, especially if you kind of save for a couple laps and then they get away and you have to go back to full burn again to try and catch them. So I actually made the mistake one time hitting the curb in turn one, which let Wagner by, and I was fully happy with just sitting behind him. And I was just trying to tamper my fuel numbers. I knew it was eventually going to close up to the fact where Jacob was like, I gotta save everything fully. So I just used that to my advantage and just tried to watch my numbers, and I knew I can go at one point. And once I took the lead, I knew I was good to the end. It just wound up being just a smidge too early because something weird happened in turn one when I turned in there. But it was it was definitely fun, but it was stressful at the same time.
Congratulations on the second place run tonight. An absolute thrilling finish to this one.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Once again, that's Andrew Wood with another solid run. Matt Wagner, he was in the popcorn seat with all of that as well. And another strong run for the driver who started off tonight in a great points position. Matt Wagner finishes P3 in car 3. Matt, what did you need to do to be able to break through in victory lane tonight?
Well there, Justin. Fuel was really on the edge here. I was kind of debating when to go or when to push my car, and I think I pushed a little bit too hard too early, catching Jake there, and I think that's what it did it toward the end there.
Talk us through the progression of the race tonight. You're among those who started mid-pack. Plenty of strategy mix-ups with the caution flag timings. What was your game plan to be able to get yourself in towards this spot at the end?
Well, as you know, on short tracks here, it's really tough to pass here. Track position is the key. So I stayed out that wanted to caution that that Matt Taylor pit, and it was a big bonus for us. And I think that put us P6, if I'm correct. And we just stood there all night long, and I'm just grateful that we were able to stay there all night.
A chance to grow that points lead up at the top of the standings. Congratulations, the run.
Thank you, Justin.
That's Matt Wagner rounding out the top three tonight. Like to thank him, Andrew Wood, Dean Mall for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on the HyperX post-race show. Turn to you, Andrew, because now it's your track action complete here in the state of Illinois in the shadow of the Gateway Arch over in Missouri. The drivers get to hop step to another state, over to Michigan, in about a month's time.
Yeah, absolutely. this is there's bound to be some short tempers after that race here today. A lot of attrition, but we're going to the high banks of Michigan, where it's going to take a lot of give and take from these drivers. There's going to have to be a lot of cooperation and a lot of respect given. So we've got a month off for tempers to cool just a little bit here before we get back into some action. So I expect the action to come fast and fierce at Michigan. It's one of those tracks that you can just run so many different lanes and get around there so many different ways. It always produces some great action. So I can't wait to see what these drivers do in 1 month's time.
And here's how crazy tonight fared out. Remember, Big Joe Hasser returned back to the track from technical issues. He confirmed he had a power outage for the 17 laps lost. He still finished 17th. We'll see how Michigan fares out in about 1 month's time. Nashville, the other date in the month of June. And on your schedule presented by Next Level Racing. But plenty else to talk about in coming weeks, but plenty to thank for tonight's action. Motor Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products, like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Motor Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloudline gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. You're feeling passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. By Kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump on the track, love of your tire, and engine redline. Tactile feedback is so accurate, realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level. Visit www.nextlevelracing.com. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. As seen on screen, plenty more to thank on top of that. To learn more about the sponsors who support the Lionheart Racing Series, go to LionheartRacingSeries.com. You can also learn more about the sanctioning bodies, races they hold. As mentioned, a summer break coming up for drivers as they get ready for a busy month of May, the official racing, and many more in terms of Lionheart competition. Next time out, Michigan is the date for the Speedway Series. Be sure to tune in June the 13th for what should be a fun one in the Irish Hills of Michigan. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. For my co-announcer Andrew Kinsella, for producer and Tyler Maxson, Justin Prince saying so long, enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching tonight's action of the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX and its Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing. Congratulations to Dean Mall, your winner from Gateway.